Hello, welcome to Friday's instalment of Break Off. We are edging ever closer to the climax here at the 2015 Dafabet Masters. Two brilliant quarter-finals yesterday, both incidentally won with the scoreline of 6-1. Ronnie O'Sullivan producing that world record of centuries en route to victory over Marco Fu, and Neil Robertson made short work of Ali Carter. More of that later on in the programme. So to this afternoon's match, it was Mark Allen bidding for a second Masters semi-final after making it through to the last four in 2011, and he was up against Joe Perry, flourishing into his 40s, but in the quarter-finals of the Masters for the very first time. It was at times scrappy at best. Allen took it 6-4. This is what he had to say afterwards. You did show some composure towards the end of the match. He pegged it back to 4-all, and you still didn't seem to panic around the table. There still seemed to be the belief that you'd get across the line into another Masters semi-final.
Yeah, I did. I felt if it went close, then I was more likely to win than Joe, even though he looked more fluent in the balls. I felt that if it went close, he might miss one that I wouldn't, and that's the way it proved. No, the last two frames I went up a level and Joe sort of didn't. Made a good break in the 9th frame, although it wasn't a frame-winning break. The way the balls were, I stayed focused, stayed calm, and took my chance well. And the last two frames, I don't think I missed a single pot, which was very contrasting to the first 8.
Also watching the match alongside me was Ivan Hershevitz, Chief Press Officer from World Snooker. Ivan, what a funny old match, and a total and utter contrast to the incredible encounter we saw Mark Allen participating in against John Higgins.
Yeah, it just shows you, what a game snooker is, where you can play brilliantly one day and terrible the next, and you probably don't even know why. I think they were both quite nervous today. We forget sometimes how much money they're playing for. I mean, the difference between 25 grand for the quarters and guaranteed 50 for the semis.
Week's wages for you.
Almost. That's a huge amount of money. And yeah, I think maybe Perry in particular got a bit nervy towards the end because he was trying to get to the semi-finals here for the first time. And Allen said in his press conference that he felt, even though he was really struggling, he had a sense that he might be the one who held it together at the business end of the match, and that's the way it worked out.
It certainly was. The world number 6 is looking good for that semi-final. Another player who will certainly hope to perform well in the semis on Saturday is Neil Robertson, the world number 1. He was absolutely fantastic against Ali Carter, and he's been here knocking up before the match against Ronnie tomorrow afternoon. He gave us a couple of minutes of his time. One of the brilliant comments in your press conference when you were asked inevitably about the great match it will be between you and Ronnie, you were asked whether you could win, and you said, if it bleeds, you can kill it. Now, we were having a bit of a debate in the press room. Had you happened to have watched Predator? Was it a predetermined line, or did it pop into your head? Where did that come from? It's a classic quote for a presser.
Well, it's one of my favourite movies growing up as a kid. Maybe watched it when I was a bit younger than I was meant to, but yeah, I mean, it was. I remembered it from when in AFL back home, Australian rules football, when Essendon was playing the Brisbane Lions, and Brisbane Lions coach Lee Matthews got asked how he's going to stop Essendon, and he came up with the same line. He said, if it bleeds, you can kill it, and he happened to go on and win the grand final. So hopefully history can repeat itself when it comes to that.
Well, it's a great mantra to have. It was a really good moment in the press conference. On a slightly more serious note, what a fantastic match for the neutrals to be able to come and watch here at Ali Pali. Ronnie is the defending champion, you as the world number 1, and it's not at all a match that you'd be intimidated by. It is going to be a cracking encounter, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Australia versus England as well, especially in London, everyone loves that kind of rivalry. Again, I'm sure Ronnie will have the majority of the support, but whenever I've played Ronnie, I've always got my fair share of applause as well when I've played well. I think that's the thing that, when you play someone like Ronnie, the crowd also appreciate, the good snooker his opponent can play as well. So I won't be intimidated. I'll just go out there and try to, replicate my really good form, and do my best. And if I come out the winner, then yeah, that's great.
It was a brilliant moment for you with your son Alexander when you did the second part of your Triple Crown here a few years ago. What would it mean to you to go all the way to the final and to lift this again? I mean, it's a very, very special event, this one. Yes, it doesn't have any ranking points, but it has an enormous amount of history, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's one of the showcase events. It's still one of it's probably the second biggest tournament we have now. So yeah, all the players prepare really well for it. So many great matches, so many great players, and such great coverage as well. So you're under the spotlight all the time, and many players thrive under that, and I believe I'm one of them.
One last question, which has sort of emerged after you saying that your 6-1 over Ali was one of the best matches you've played in. Are there a couple of other matches? Have you got a sort of, off the top of your head, a top 3 that you can recall? Not necessarily matches that have resulted in you winning the Worlds or the UK or the Masters, but can you pinpoint a couple of matches where you were absolutely in the zone and produced close to 100% flawless snooker?
Yeah, I was very close to that against Peter Ebdon in the UK. Actually, funnily enough, when I was 5-0 down the Graham Dot, I played 5 really, really great frames. Beat Mark Williams here 6-0.
Yeah, he'll thank you for that one.
I think I had 98% pot success and average shot time of 13 seconds. So I might have to have a look at that because I can't imagine myself ever playing that quick. So yeah, but that's the match that probably sticks out in the Masters for me was when I beat Williams 6-0 because I was quite young then and had just won my first tournament, so I was kind of like sort of new young player on the block and yeah, so that's the match for me that in the Masters, I'll probably get the most amount of satisfaction, probably watching it back.
Always fascinating to get the thoughts of Neil Robertson. There's a real steel beneath that cool, calm exterior. We'll get the thoughts of Ivan Hershevitz in just a moment about that match against Ronnie, because there's another life coach and guru we need to hear from, a certain former England footballer, Danny Mills, who earlier this week caused a few waves, a few ripples in the sporting world by claiming that snooker wasn't a sport because you didn't need to change your shoes. Let's see what philosophy Danny Mills has come up with today.
Sport, you have to wear specific footwear. You can wear any shoes for snooker, not a sport.
Well, I think both of us are lost for words there. You really do learn something new every day. Thanks very much to Danny Mills. There'll be more from him on semi-final Saturday, as indeed there will from the Rocket Ronnie O'Sullivan and Neil Robertson. Let's get on to the serious business. Ivan, this is a huge, huge matchup. Defending champion, knocking in another world record, but Neil Robertson, on the back of that win against Ali Carter, will absolutely believe that he can depose the champion and get himself in another Masters final.
Yeah, I can't wait. I want to be out here with you at the beginning just to sense a little bit of the atmosphere. It's going to be really rocking in here tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, the way Neil played last night was just fantastic. He described it as one of the best performances of his career. Mixture of great break building, a couple of centuries and 3 more big breaks, plus his safety was just phenomenal. Every time Carter came to the table, he was just wedged against the baulk cushion. And if Neil plays like that against Ronnie tomorrow, you'd probably make him favourite, if he can reproduce that form. But how often, really, do we see players reproduce their best when they come up against O'Sullivan? They've got against that barrier of the fact that they're playing Ronnie, especially here on his home turf, and they've just got to focus on their game and try and play their best. But if Neil can do that, we're in for a real humdinger, I think.
Well, and let's look at it just for a moment from Ronnie's perspective. Defending champion, he will have huge support, but as he says, therefore also huge pressure. And although 6-1 was a fantastic scoreline against Marco Fu, he'll need more if Robbo produces what he did against Ali Carter.
Yeah, Ronnie wasn't at his best yesterday against Fu. Fu certainly had chances. And the fact that Robertson's the underdog will probably work in his favour. He'll go into the match thinking, well, in a way, I've got nothing to lose here, and he'll relish that chance to take on O'Sullivan. And if he can get off to a good start, well, it could be really fascinating.
Well, that's it for this edition of Break Off. We'll be back on semi-final Saturday. It's 1 o'clock, the Rocket Ronnie O'Sullivan against the Thunder from Down Under, Neil Robertson. What a way for semi-final Saturday at the 2015 Dafabet Masters to kick off. We will see you then for even more snooker drama. In the meantime, good night.
What do we got to do?
In a part of the world where there are no rules.
We pick up their trailer at the chopper, run them down, grab those hostages before anybody knows we were there.
An elite rescue squad.
You're bleeding, man. I ain't got time to bleed.
Is being led by the ultimate warrior.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Predator. The hunt begins Friday, June 12th at theaters everywhere.